Excellencies, Mr. Secretary General of UNCTAD, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome you to this first World Investment Forum Ministerial Roundtable on entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery in post-COVID-19. My name is James Zhang, I'm the Director of Investment Enterprise in the division that organizes this World Investment Forum. Today, my senior colleague, Jörg Weber, and I will facilitate this ministerial session. Our speakers this afternoon include ministers from 13 countries, including Cameroon, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Jordan, Gambia, Guatemala, Mauritius, Mozambique, the Seychelles, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. They will also be joined by Ms. Dorothy Tembo, Deputy Executive Director from the International Trade Organization, an important partner of UNCTAD in the area of enterprise development. Towards this end of this session, we'll also present a video which highlights stories of resilience and success of women entrepreneurs. Without further ado, it is my honor and a pleasure to invite our Secretary General, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, to make her introductory statement. Ms. Secretary General, over to you.
Thank you very much, James, and let me welcome the excellencies, the ministers of this wonderful variety of countries in all continents that are with us today. Let me really thank all of you for your time, for your effort to be with us in a very important theme today that is precisely the table on entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery post-COVID-19. So really distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is my pleasure to open this ministerial roundtable on entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery. In a few minutes, we will hear from you, the different ministers from different geographies and backgrounds, talking about the most urgent issue. As we know, entrepreneurship is critical to sustainable development. This has been reiterated by 4 distinct UN General Assembly resolutions, which call on UNCTAD to help member states promote entrepreneurship in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We at UNCTAD have been heeding that call for decades now through the Empretec network of training centers, present in more than 40 countries, as well as through our policy work, like the Entrepreneurship Policy Framework, the policy guides on youth entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship for migrants and refugees, or the policy toolkit on youth entrepreneurship for the green and blue economy. Here we can see the strength of entrepreneurship promotion, the fact that it allows for targeted approaches with specific policy objectives. Another case in point is our annual Women in Business Award, which shows how entrepreneurship helps overcome barriers faced by specific groups of the population. We will see more about our Women in Business Award at the end of this meeting. But we all understand the importance of entrepreneurship for an inclusive recovery, for inclusive growth, and for a sustainable development. However, I am convinced that our greatest work in entrepreneurship promotion is still ahead of us. This pandemic has produced immense setbacks for entrepreneurship worldwide, destroying millions of companies and jobs, especially in developing countries and in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This call on us to redouble our efforts, because to achieve the global recovery the world deserves, we need more diverse entrepreneurs and better entrepreneurs. We need to open more companies than those that closed, and to create more jobs than those we lost. This requires, obviously, new investments, new policies, and new paradigms. For example, to ensure that our efforts to promote entrepreneurship contribute to a sustainable and resilient recovery. We need to increase the digital preparedness of MSMEs, and we need to increase their capacity to operate with sound ESG practices. Your Excellencies, dear friends, in response to these challenges, the United Nations launched the Global Initiative Towards Post-Covid-19 Resurgence of the MSME sector, which offers targeted advisory and capacity building services. This project, led by UNCTAD in partnership with Regional Economic and Social Commissions and the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, has been leveraging the expertise of our network of Entrepec centers in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. This global initiative calls for a transformative vision with closer and stronger collaboration between national governments and actors of the international development community. In this spirit, we have designed this Ministerial Roundtable to hear directly from our ministers about the strategies they are envisaging to deal with the effects of the COVID-19 crisis on entrepreneurship. This is really what we call South-South cooperation, to learn from each other and to learn from the experiences. With this in mind, we have asked our ministers 4 key questions for this debate. First, what is the role of regional and international cooperation in helping MSMEs overcome the long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic? Second, what are the institutional changes needed to accommodate the innovations brought about by this pandemic? Because we have learned a lot. Third, how can we improve market access for MSMEs in the context of rapidly changing global value chains? And fourth, and lastly, how will digital communication technologies, such as what we are doing here, and teleworking and Zoom, affect the development and promotion of entrepreneurship skills, but also how they impact the digital technologies, the MSMEs, with the gap and asymmetries that we have in their access. I very much look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of this. And I really thank you again, dear ministers, for your time, for your commitment, and for being with us in this important roundtable here today. I thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General of UNCTAD. May I invite His Excellency, Mr. Ashid Basilikan Troisième from the Republic of Cameroon. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the floor. Madam Secretary General of UNCTAD, honorable ministers, thank you for inviting Cameroon to participate in this ministerial roundtable as we are building consensus on the post-COVID-19 environment that will enable micro and SMEs overcome the long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, Cameroon developed and adopted in November 2020 a new reference framework for the next decade, 2020-2030, called the National Development Strategy, NDS 30. In that context, the structural transformation of the economy and the inclusive development gives a central role to the private sector in general and MSMEs in particular. In this regard, policy measures are being implemented in favor of MSMEs to address the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic with a strong emphasis on the promotion of entrepreneurship. This will improve the resilience of hit-hard MSMEs and to prevent a large number of them from bankruptcy. Needless to underscore that our economy is essentially dominated by SMEs, accounting for 95% of our productive actors. In that regard, our policy revolves around, first, the modernization of MSMEs, producing manufactured goods, and the development of local value chains with a view to capacitate our MSMEs joining global value chains and benefit from technology transfer. Second, improving MSMEs' access to finance. This includes strengthening the capacity of the financial sector to respond to the needs of new businesses with the establishment of a trust fund for SMEs actually in the pipeline. It also involved the recapitalization of the Cameroonian SMEs Bank that will focus on interventions from the form of long and medium-term financing. Thirdly, improving MSMEs market access. Structural difficulties have prevented the majority of Cameroonian SMEs take advantage of market access opportunities provided by trade agreements. Filling these gaps will involve providing more information on the market niches and enhancing entrepreneur skills to sell their products and services online. Against this backdrop, the government joined the International Trade Center She Trades Initiative in March 2021 to support women business activities. Since then, Cameroonian women entrepreneurs benefited from online training in e-commerce and opportunities to share good business practices with other countries, members of the She Trades network. Lastly, the operationalization of the African Continental FTA, awareness raising and information campaigns are actually being developed for MSMEs entrepreneurs. An important pillar of the post-COVID-19 strategy is on improving entrepreneurial skills of certain target groups. In that regard, steps are actually on the way for the implementation of the National Plan for the Development of Entrepreneurship in Cameroon, developed with the assistance of UNCTAD. Since March 2020, several public and private businesses, incubators, have been developed under the umbrella of the new framework set up by the Prime Minister. The fifth pillar being improving MSMEs' capacity to absorb innovation. The COVID-19 health crisis highlighted the need for MSMEs to link up with the use of new information and communication technologies. In Cameroon, a certain number of projects are underway, including strengthening the capacities of startups to generate digital solutions and master the quality requirements with the support of cooperating partners and adapt to the trends of the new economy triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, regarding the contribution of cooperating partners, last July, our ministry organized the maiden edition of the Cooperation and Partnerships Days to revisit the effective role that bilateral and multilateral cooperating partners could play in supporting our entrepreneurial ecosystem in the post-COVID-19 outlook. Various technical and financial partners took part in the proceedings, and an advocacy paper was adopted, mapping out the specific programs and funding needs for their implementation, together with the financing needs of MSMEs. In a nutshell, regional and international cooperation is of critical importance, and this could contribute to the mobilization of financing of technical and financial partners to substantially stepping up access to funding to SMEs. The consolidation of the functioning and governance of economic and financial institutions, and thirdly, the creation of a favorable economic environment which guarantees access to economic infrastructure. Here, we see transport, energy, telecommunication, and justice. To be more specific, we expect UNCTAD to mobilize their expertise for the implementation of the National Plan for the Development of Entrepreneurship, to assist in setting up a statistical information system to improve monitoring and evaluation of MSME's contribution to our economy, and to expand and protect program activities in Cameroon beyond what is actually being provided by the Emprotect Center in Yaoundé, including the new technical support program for MSMEs to address the long-term effects of COVID-19. We also expect UNDP to strengthen the capacity of MSMEs in the establishment of agri-food value chains, as regard UN Women, to support our efforts to promote women entrepreneurship and enable them to benefit from investment initiatives. As regard African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the European Development Bank, to continue providing their financial support with dedicated credit lines to MSMEs via the interface of local commercial banks. As concerned FAO and IFAD, for their support in developing agricultural MSMEs, and lastly, ITC for their market access schemes and programs. As I'm concluding, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunities given to convey our position in this debate, and I look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you for your remarks about UNCTAD and other international organizations. UNCTAD is particularly honored to have the opportunity to assist your country in setting up the national entrepreneurship strategy and also help the analysis of the business registration procedures. And we are really honored to have the opportunity for such a contribution. May I now invite Her Excellency, Dr. Cecil Biso Naini, Minister of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Development from the Republic of Zimbabwe. Madam Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I want to apologize for the technical hiccups that happened and appreciate your patience. Let me recognize the Director of Ceremonies, the Acting Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, Isabella Durant, fellow ministers from other countries, CEO, captains of industry, esteemed representatives from SME organizations and the private sector at large, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege and pleasure for me to present at the 7th World Investment Forum under the theme, Investing in Sustainable Recovery. I would like to start by thanking the Office of the Secretary General of UNCTAD for inviting me to be part of the Ministerial Roundtable today. Entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery post a pandemic era is a very important theme. The forum could not have chosen a more relevant theme than this, given the time we are living in, where economies all over the world have been ravaged by COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in the loss of incomes for most businesses, particularly micro, small, and medium enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic has rekindled the need to develop sustainable, resilient SMEs, given that micro, small, and medium enterprises are the bedrock of the global economy, accounting for over 2/3 of all formal jobs in developing nations. This was from the International Labour Organization in 2013. The World Bank has reported that MSME represent about 90% of businesses, and they contribute over 40% of national GDP in emerging economies. Additionally, the World Bank also estimated 600 million jobs will be needed by 2030 to absorb the labor force, which makes the development of SME critical for governments around the world. The advent of COVID-19 pandemic has had serious negative effects on the operations of the majority of operators in the SME sector. Due to restrictions implemented to curb the spread of the virus by various governments across the world, only companies that were classified as providing essential services were allowed to operate, with the rest closing shop. Companies that were allowed to operate were in the sector such as health, security, food production, processing and distribution, internet services, financial services, and energy. Other sectors deemed as non-essential services were ordered to hold operations in order to contain the spread of the virus. Resultantly, the restrictions caused loss of revenue, loss of employment, cancellations of contracts, and incapacitation of honored obligations such as loan payments, utilities, and rentals by most businesses and individuals alike. Ladies and gentlemen, in spite of drawbacks emanating from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, MSMEs can steer sustained recovery of global economies due to their resilience, their dynamism, adaptability, and innovative nature. MSMEs have an unquenchable hope for recovery, and they need support from both governments at large and the corporates for recovery and a greater resilience in the post-pandemic period. There is need for a paradigm shift in terms of MSMEs and their businesses. The legal and regulatory framework is one of the key enablers towards a long-term, green, inclusive, and resilient recovery of MSMEs. The current operating environment in most countries is restrictive and increases the cost of doing business, affecting productivity and competitiveness of SMEs. The new policy priorities should promote collaboration among various regulatory authorities and introduce one-stop centers which combine various procedures. Despite the clear significance of MSMEs in our economies, their clear role, these enterprises continue to struggle with a number of other challenges, which include access to finance, while affordability of funding has been improving. Accessibility of some of the funding, especially by SMEs, has been elusive, largely because the funds are too expensive for them, and largely the informal sector is maybe sometimes very far from these institutions. It should therefore be our resolve to do all that is necessary to capacitate our SME sector into one that is more robust and vibrant. I therefore wish to encourage collaboration and cooperation within the MSME and financial sectors towards finding amicable solutions to the challenges faced by MSMEs who have exhibited the ability to broaden their economic activities best, and address the issues of poverty and unemployment. In my country, Zimbabwe, the MSME sector is at the center of our economy, as the sector accounts for more than 50% of our GDP, and it also accounts for 70% of the national employment. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, therefore, had very bad effects on the livelihoods, as restrictive measures affected both domestic and cross-border trade, resulting in the disruption of key supply chains and markets. In order to cushion MSMEs from the effects of COVID-19 and to ensure sustainable recovery, our government has taken a number of measures, some of which include the following. Zimbabwe recently launched a national micro, small, and medium enterprise policy, which stretches from 2020 to 2024. This policy addresses current challenges to enhance productivity, quality, and competitiveness of MSME sector to effectively contribute to the income generating employment and the GDP. The MSME policy is working as a guide for monitoring and evaluation in tracking the achievements of set targets and indicators. Some of the measures embedded within the policy framework includes the following: establishment of venture capital funds. Lessons from the fast-growing economies show that the involvement of venture capital in growth of SMEs is a critical ingredient. The second one is incentivizing financial institutions. The government is putting in place incentives such as guarantees, fiscal and other incentives for financial institutions and other fund managers to fund MSMEs. Thirdly, the government is promoting the establishment and registration of savings and credit cooperatives, the SACCOs. These institutions include inculcate the culture of saving and self-financing to promote alternative sources of funding for the sector. And fourthly, the government supported the establishment of stock exchange for SMEs as an instrument for attracting investment resources for MSMEs in growth potential sectors of our economy. And fifthly, promotion of loans and incentives for innovation and green growth, broaden financial literacy training to MSME, and supervision and monitoring of financial products offered to MSMEs. In order to support the recovery of SMEs from effects of the pandemic, the government of Zimbabwe in 2020 availed Zimbabwe dollar 500 million stimulus package to bail out MSMEs. This was at concessional interest rates, and it helped a lot of the sector. The use of technology and innovation is one of the key components towards resilient recovery of the SMEs. SMEs need to be supported to adopt ICT-driven production and marketing systems and take a leading role in the fourth industrial revolution, which sees technology development as an enabler and as a business opportunity in itself. In order to accelerate innovation and the development of new technologies, our government is doing also the following. Number one, establishing technology hubs and incubators at universities and institutions of higher learning. Number two, encouraging and increasing funding towards research and development in new technologies. And thirdly, supporting e-commerce through putting in place incentives for development of applications, mobile commerce, e-marketing, digital payments, inventory management systems, and other business operations. And lastly, providing training on ICT to target groups such as women and rural entrepreneurs. Zimbabwe also accelerated and broadened entrepreneurship skills development to strengthen the capacity of individuals to start and manage their own businesses, thereby enhancing an entrepreneurial culture. The government of Zimbabwe, together with its partners, also values the provision of decent workspace, as well as training and development for citizens outside the formal education system through training in business management, business planning, and financial management, marketing, product research, and development. Decent workspace is also key for MSME productivity and marketing. These initiatives are helping to promote entrepreneurship development, thereby strengthening the SME sector in our country. I would therefore like to invite potential investors to explore the various investment opportunities in various sectors of our economy, such as agriculture, manufacturing, mining, energy, and ICT. Opportunities in agriculture are in value addition, meat processing, fruit juices, horticulture, and floriculture, and the beef industry. There is also a huge gap in the energy sector where investors can invest in clean sources of energy such as solar, biogas, and hydroelectric power. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, there is indisputable evidence that most, if not all, economies, including the developed countries, are anchored on the robust, well-coordinated, and supported SME sector. It is thus crucial that
Excuse me, Mrs. Minister, could you come to a close? Thank you.
Yes, I am concluding. It is therefore important that we all come together to support this sector. I can assure you that if we fully tap into the entrepreneurial spirit of our people, this goal will be achieved. Once again, allow me to thank the Office of the Secretary General of UNCTAD for organizing this forum and for allowing me to share my country's perspective on entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery post-pandemic era. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Ngoni, for your statement. UNCTAD is ready to continue our cooperation with Empathic Zimbabwe. It is now my pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. David Bahati, Minister of State, Industry and Cooperatives of the Republic of Uganda, to take the floor. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, the Secretary General, my colleagues, ministers. We want to also join the rest of my colleagues in appreciating the opportunity to share on this important subject of helping entrepreneurs and small-scale medium enterprises to get out of this situation because of COVID, but also in a sustainable manner. I want to reflect on our experience as a country and also the challenges that we are facing, and probably propose a few ideas on how the global ecosystem can support us as a country. First, small and medium enterprises are an engine of growth for our country. Out of 100 jobs that we create every year, 72 are created by small medium enterprises, and they employ mainly women and young people. They do contribute 56% to our GDP, which now stands at 40 billion US dollars. And because of COVID, our country has taken some decisions to support small medium enterprises, but also the entrepreneurs. First, we are put in place and supported institutions like Enterprise Uganda and other institutions that support capacity building to give small medium enterprises the necessary skills to cope with this pandemic, but also help them in becoming more innovative. Secondly, the small medium enterprises, like any other across the world, were affected in terms of access at capital. Most of them, their capital was eroded. So we have put a fund specifically under Uganda Development Bank, which is close now to 150 million US dollars to support small medium enterprises, especially those in tourism and industry, agro-processing, and the rest. We have also gone ahead to have direct funding for small enterprises without going through the bureaucracy of the bank, and we have put up a fund where we are investing with commercial banks, a fund of around 80 million US dollars to support them. In terms of innovation, we are trying our level best to lower the cost of internet. We are rolling out the national backbone to be able to improve the infrastructure of ICT and also lower the cost of internet to support small and medium enterprises and encourage them to do e-commerce using internet. We have put innovation fund of around small, but around 15 million US dollars for startups, especially for the young people. Those who want to have some startups, develop apps are being facilitated under that specific fund. Market access has also been a big issue, and we are working to improve the standards of the products they produce, especially by reducing and removing unnecessary bureaucracies and also reducing the cost of permits to produce these goods. The way forward is that the role of regional and international organizations, we need to really work out a mechanism to remove barriers of trade, to have free movement. The quota system might not facilitate these small medium enterprises. So as we get into a sustainable manner, I think removing barriers of trade is going to continue being crucial, Madam Secretary General. We all continue to appeal to all our friends, both regional and international corporations, to make Uganda your destination for investment. Because when we invest here in Uganda, especially the challenges that are facing small medium enterprises have been access to raw materials. You can imagine at this stage, getting a container which we used to take 20 days from China for raw materials, we are taking 3 months. That's a very huge cost. So when we have investors that use the resources, the minerals, the raw materials that we have here and process them to support the production of raw materials, that would be a good way. Earlier today, I was looking at the steel that we are using in this country is worth 300 million US dollars. But we have deposits of iron ore that can be processed to produce this. So continuing to promote the policy of import substitution and export promotion is going to be helpful to help these small medium enterprises. Also, at an international level, helping in any way that can help to allow these small medium enterprises set up call centers and start doing jobs across the continent and across the world as through BPOs would be another way of collaboration at a regional and international level. We are working hard to lower the cost of electricity. In general, lowering the cost of doing business is one way that we can help small medium enterprises. And one, lowering the cost of transport, especially Uganda being a landlocked country. We are doing our level best to improve on the railway system from Mombasa to Kampala, but also we are lowering cost of electricity. We, for example, now want anybody who is in manufacturing, whether small, medium, or big manufacturing, to access electricity for production at a cost of 5 cents, as opposed to what has been from 18, we are bringing it down to 5 cents. And in the next 6 months, we have all it takes to make this happen. So, Madam Secretary General and my colleagues, ministers, these are some of the thoughts that we think that can help the small medium enterprises to move from the effects of this pandemic into a sustainable way. But I want to remind my colleagues that, as I said at the previous conference, that we, in the short run, we must sort out the issue of vaccination, because to talk about post-COVID when we are still in COVID is also a little bit challenging. So we must sort out the issue of vaccination to be able to get out of this pandemic and then support these small medium enterprises to move forward. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary General and Moderator.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Bahati, for your remarks. I think it's particularly pertinent to remind us that we're not in the post-COVID era, but we are rather still in it. UNCTAD stands ready to continue to walk the talk with Uganda in terms of its support for its rather ambitious and very welcomed ambitious entrepreneurship development program. And in this context, we recall with appreciation that last year in 2020, the Women in Business Award was granted to one of the young entrepreneurs from your country. So thank you very much again for your remarks. It's now my pleasure to invite Dr. Francisco Noguera, President of NN Pulse of Colombia, to take the floor.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and on behalf of our Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, I'm pleased to represent our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Agency, Impulsa Colombia, and speak briefly about the policies and initiatives that we're putting in place in order to support entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized enterprises in Colombia in this context and adapt to the changes that all these circumstances have brought about. We have established entrepreneurship as one of the 3 key pillars in the development plan of Colombia, led by President Duque. And as part of this initiative, we have established a robust plan that includes the strengthening of financing mechanisms and, most importantly, the strengthening of regional and sectoral ecosystems for entrepreneurs. We believe that by strengthening regional and sectoral ecosystems, we can create enabling environments for entrepreneurs and key sectors to thrive in this age of digital innovation. This a component of building regional ecosystem really seeks to democratize and bring the offer that various public and private institutions have. This includes local governments, the national government, corporations, academia, chambers of commerce. All of these institutions have various tools and mechanisms through which MSMEs and entrepreneurs can participate and gain access to markets, gain access to financing opportunities. And so we've established a network of regional hubs. We currently have 24 regional hubs throughout the country. These are spaces that bring together all the institutional actors supporting MSMEs and entrepreneurs and try to make this offer more easily and readily available for entrepreneurs and MSMEs, so that the interaction between the solutions that MSMEs have and the needs that larger institutions have in order to transform and to adapt to these new realities becomes more fluid. In that context, we're also promoting an ambitious GovTech agenda. And by GovTech, we mean opening the doors of the public sector and the digital transformation needs of institutions within the government, so that MSMEs and entrepreneurs can provide solutions. And in that context and in that agenda, we are creating a framework for public procurement of innovations provided by SMEs and by entrepreneurs. We believe that the best policy that we can implement is really to promote an environment of open innovation in which the collective needs for transformation represent an opportunity for entrepreneurs throughout the country. All of these policies have also been laid out in a recent legislation bill that we passed called the Entrepreneurship Law, passed earlier this year, and also a set of cross-cutting policies that are strengthening the capacity of our agency, Impulsa, to really be a bridge between the development priorities of the country in various sectors, in energy, in environment, in transportation, in smart cities, in financial inclusion, with the offer that entrepreneurs have, and also inviting private investors, including venture capital and financial institutions and the emerging fintech ecosystem, to provide financing solutions to entrepreneurs and SMEs. In short, the key message that we would like to convey before offering some closing remarks on other key sectors has to do with an approach to entrepreneurship and to MSME growth that is not necessarily top-down, but is collective in nature, that brings together an ecosystem that consists of various institutions that have not only offers of support and, let's say, assistance to MSMEs, but rather an invitation for them to work together in their digital transformation agendas. And in doing that, in promoting that collaboration, we can promote an environment that meets both the transformation imperative that we're all facing, and also the market opportunities that MSMEs and entrepreneurs are looking for in these challenging times. We're also promoting an ambitious agenda related to the promotion and to the reactivation of tourism with a focus on sustainable tourism and tourism that puts the protection of local communities and the environment front and center. And we're also promoting an initiative that promotes the purchase of local goods and the recognition of the role that MSMEs are playing. So we've established with another of the agencies that are part of this ministry a range of initiatives that promote and try to exalt and really communicate the positive impacts that private enterprise in general, but small and medium-sized enterprise in particular, has in the social fabric in the regions of a country like Colombia. So open innovation, a focus on sustainable tourism, and a focus on the promotion of our local enterprises and the role that the private sector and MSMEs play in times like this are some of the strategies that we are implementing from the side of the government. We are very pleased to have this opportunity to share these initiatives, which are part of a bold agenda related to entrepreneurship and to positioning Colombia as a regional hub for entrepreneurship and innovation. This is a time of great transformation, of great disruption to a lot of the systems and institutions that we have grown accustomed to, but it is also a time of great opportunity to connect those transformation needs to the offer and to the capacities that entrepreneurs and MSMEs and the agility that they can bring to the table in terms of offering solutions. And in that sense, we believe that we can continue to position Colombia as an entrepreneurial nation, as an entrepreneurial hub in the region, in which this joint work between the public sector, the private sector, and civil society, it really represents a network and an ecosystem that allows MSMEs and entrepreneurship to continue flourishing in the country. Thank you for the opportunity to offer these brief remarks on some of the policies that we're implementing, and looking forward to continuing the work with UNCTAD and with the allies that are supporting these initiatives in these crucial times.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noguera from Impulse. Thank you very much for this very inspiring presentation. I think Colombia and what you presented is not only regional best practice, but global best practice. And we're very happy that you have used this forum to explain to us what is undertaken. UNCTAD stands ready to work with you and the Empatech centers in Colombia in the future. We are happy to hear from His Excellency, Mr. Victor Dubizono Haza, the Minister of Industry, Commerce, and Micro and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises from the Dominican Republic. Mr. Minister, you have the floor.
Honorables embajadores y representantes permanentes, señoras y señores, en nombre de nuestro jefe de Estado, señor Luis Abinader Corona, y en el mío propio, extendemos nuestras felicitaciones a la Conferencia de las Naciones Unidas sobre Comercio y Desarrollo por la celebración de este Foro Mundial de Inversiones. Es para mí un honor participar en esta reunión ministerial en la que trataremos aspectos relevantes sobre políticas que respondan a los desafíos impuestos por el contexto sanitario que todos hemos padecido. En este contexto, República Dominicana está trabajando arduamente en la recuperación y renovación de la economía a través del fortalecimiento del sector empresarial en todo su alcance. Es así como el pasado mes de enero lanzamos el plan de rescate a la MIPYME, mediante el cual brindamos asistencia permanente para digitalizar los servicios que comprenden este sector. Asimismo, comprometidos con la igualdad de condiciones para todos, pusimos en marcha la certificación MIPYMES Mujer, una política que busca apoyar los sueños de las mujeres dominicanas que con su esfuerzo y trabajo tesonero aportan al desarrollo económico del país. Mediante este programa, están accediendo de manera activa en los procesos de compra del Estado, especialmente al 20% de los procesos de compras estatales destinados a la micro, pequeña y medianas empresas, consignado en nuestro marco regulatorio. Así también, acabamos de iniciar el primer Censo Nacional de MIPYME, el cual nos permitirá contar con datos actualizados para redirigir políticas públicas que verdaderamente impacten de manera positiva a nuestros sectores. Y es que definitivamente nuestros emprendedores no están solos. Desde este Ministerio de Industria, Comercio y MIPYME, promovemos la cultura emprendedora como herramienta de generación de empleos y riquezas, apoyando la creación de un ecosistema facilitador de iniciativas de negocios. Muestra de ello es el programa Emprendtech, el cual ejecutamos junto a la UNTAC, trabajando a la profundidad del comportamiento del emprendedor dominicano a los fines de apoyarles en el desarrollo óptimo de sus negocios. Es por ello que como una prioridad para este gobierno y enmarcado en las metas presidenciales, nos hemos propuesto capacitar 2.500 personas para el cierre del año 2024, logrando así una transformación en el entorno empresarial nacional. De igual forma, estamos trabajando en una estrategia robusta para encadenar a la MIPYME con las grandes cadenas globales de valor. En ese orden, en este año se han aprobado 71 nuevas empresas de zona franca que invirtieron más de 180 millones de dólares y crearon 10.000 nuevos empleos. Así también, ya recuperamos el 100% de los empleos suspendidos por la pandemia. Sin duda alguna, los efectos de la pandemia han provocado un retroceso en nuestras economías. Sin embargo, debemos de aprovechar las oportunidades de desarrollo que han surgido, como es el aumento del comercio de servicios basado en el conocimiento y lo de la tecnología de la información y comunicación. República Dominicana hoy reafirma su compromiso con la colaboración multilateral que nos permita continuar recuperándonos de manera inclusiva y sostenible, generando más y mejores oportunidades para nuestros emprendedores. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Minister Haza, and in particular, thank you for your very nice and warm words towards our cooperation with UNCTAD. I'm happy to now see that the Minister from Jordan, the Minister of Labor from Jordan, Minister Navef Shitir is online. Please, sir, you have the floor.
First of all, thank you very much. This is, I believe in this time of what is happening around in the globe. I believe this is a very important conference, and hopefully that very soon we will be having it in person. First of all, I would like to thank UNICTAD for inviting us. Jordan has always been a major partner with UNICTAD, and entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery, especially we're talking about COVID-19. Jordan has done a lot for entrepreneurship mainly. As all of us in the beginning, I really like to welcome all the excellencies and the distinguished guests and the ladies and gentlemen. And in the beginning, I just want to say that we at the Ministry of Labor and Jordan, we look at entrepreneurship as a way of life and not only as a necessity. And today, taking the pleasure of being among you, I like to express what the government of Jordan has introduced the measures and the exceptional measures to address the impact of the pandemic. Maintaining the business sustainability through different programs provided by the government and the Social Security Department, the most prominent of which was the Istidama project. The Istidama program was the main objective of that was to support the vulnerable households and workers, which benefited around 6,700 entities and over 110 beneficiaries until today. In addition to the Ministry of Labor, also has oversee a lot of the issues that has to do with the employer and the employees. And there were a law which gave an exceptional for all startups, entrepreneurs, and as well as companies in Jordan, that they can start if they had the safety measures and to at least that they can follow the safety measures that was announced by the government of Jordan and by mainly the Ministry of Health. We had the main important thing that the government was assuring the fulfillment of the labor workers articles such as the wages protection by launching an online platform which is called Himayati, which is My Protection, and to receive the labor complaints which reached to over 110 complaints, which contributed in limiting the layoffs of employees through enforcing defenses and so on. In addition to that, the government has, through the central bank, has launched 2 programs to support entrepreneurs and SMEs. And these main programs were either to support giving them grace periods by postponing paying of their loans or interest rates and so on for 6 months and then for 1 year for the banks, or it was loans with a low interest rates that were given to entrepreneurs, SMEs, in order to help them in overcoming the effects of COVID. And these programs were either on a medium-term financing programs, which was over 1.2 billion JDs, which is around almost $1.7 billion of direct facilities granted by banks and by commercial banks through a very minimal interest rate of not more than 2%. To cover all the operational expenses, including the salaries and wages, as well as and capital of a low cost. Second was the National Program for Self-Employment, which was totally designed to help entrepreneurs up to $45,000, where it gave through loans from commercial banks supported by the Central Bank of Jordan. It gave loans to startups and entrepreneurs to take loans up to $45,000 without any guarantor or without any collaterals. And that was an exceptional thing that ever happened in our country, which has always depends that loans for startups really depend on collaterals and guarantors. This was an exceptional, as well as for any startups that they want to take loans up to $250,000, they can still have a guarantor, but they can have a low interest rate of 3.3% to up to 4%, which was also an exceptional rate for as an interest rate. The main objective was how to sustain. The main objectives of whatever we've done as a government was to help in sustaining as well as protecting the private sector in different areas. One of our main priorities as a government was the 2022 recovery plan, which is enabling the private sector to create new job opportunities. And the ministry focuses on regulating the labor market. And here where is our role as a Ministry of Labor. Through our different organizations, we are very much trying to enforce the main objective of the Ministry of Labor, which is regulating the labor market, helping the foreign investors to come, finding and classifying the jobs, the technical jobs that we have in the country, as well as to enable the infrastructure for entrepreneurs to start their own businesses through providing them with qualified labor, trained labor, as well as with support them with the environment which enabled them to sustain their investment and to protect their investments in the country. So this is in a quick, as you know, that I've been in this position for the past week. So, but I wanted to thank you for engaging us as a ministry and as a country in this important event. And definitely, we will have more support that will be launching very soon for entrepreneurs and for startups, as well as for SMEs to enhance their competitiveness. As we know, our main objective as a ministry is to regulate the labor market, as well as we want to make sure that we increase the competitiveness of entrepreneurs and SMEs, because they are the job creators in any country. And by sustaining the laws and by providing the enabling environment, I believe that we will do that and we will reach our target. So thank you very much and appreciate engaging us. And I thank all our excellencies and colleagues and ladies and gentlemen for listening to me and for this information, very important invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Naif, STT Minister of Labor, for your very inspiring remarks. UNCTAD is grateful for your words, and we stand ready to continue our excellent cooperation with the government of Jordan, and in particular the Jordan Business Development Center, to continue on the path of making entrepreneurship, especially also for vulnerable groups, work for the country's development. And with that, is now my great pleasure.
I'm the Minister of Labor now.
See, wonderful. Congratulations.
So it's under the Ministry of Labor.
Ministry of Labor. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, it's now my great pleasure to invite Mrs. Dorothy Tembe, the Deputy Executive Director of the International Trade Center here in Geneva, to take the floor. Dorothy, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, moderator. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking Secretary General Greispan for extending an invitation to ITC to participate in this ministerial session. I am also very pleased at this point to share with you a few thoughts on what governments, investment promotion agencies, and international organizations can do to assist micro, small, and medium enterprises to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. 4 key points that I wanted to focus my intervention on. First is the fact that we need to have some urgent actions taken that will work towards revitalizing global investment, especially from MISME recovery. The UNCTAD World Investment Report shows that global FDI declined by 35% in 2020. As did greenfield investment in developing countries, which were hit especially hard, falling by 42% in comparison to the 19% relating to developed countries. Smes are the backbone of our economies, and much of this has been alluded to in the earlier statements that have been made. But they are also the ones that have been worst affected by the pandemic. A recent ITC survey with 2,500 firms in Francophone Africa showed that their revenue has fallen by half and staff cut by a third due to the pandemic. To date, they're still struggling and have not yet been able to reach their pre-pandemic levels. Therefore, revitalizing investment must be a policy priority during the post-pandemic recovery. Governments should adopt policies that can attract, facilitate, and return FDI, as well as enhancing its contribution to Smes recovery and sustainable development. Second point I wanted to make is one that relates to what we think should be the measures or changes that will be necessary going forward. Our starting point as an organization is ITC's SME competitiveness outlook estimates that give us the picture that SMEs in developing countries will require $1 trillion of additional investment annually to move forward and to also move towards the attainment of the SDGs. This financing gap remains largely unmet. Beyond the economic fundamentals like market size, which we often talk about, we know that the impediments to investment relate to transparency, predictability, and ease of doing business. As a response, it is therefore important that facilitating sustainable investment is done through making investment-related information more easily available, reducing the red tape that has been spoken to by others, assisting investors to navigate the complex regulations that are often found in many countries, as well as helping them to amicably resolve complaints or hindrances when they are faced with these. This can indeed, in our view, provide a boost in confidence to both domestic as well as foreign investors. Efforts are also needed to increase the contribution of FDI to sustainable development. Various aspects of sustainability related to investment should be explored during policy deliberations, including but not limited to the following: the environmental sustainability, the corporate social responsibility, knowledge and technology transfer, inclusive value chains such as linkages with local Smes suppliers, as well as addressing the gender and youth considerations. Digital transformation, which many have also referred to, has been accelerated in the past 3 to 7 years during the pandemic. We know that some positive strides have been taken by default because people were obliged to find solutions in a situation where we were confronted with the fact that we had to do business differently. However, the pressure on Smes to catch up on digital technologies remains. But we may also want to generate new opportunities through this channel. Therefore, investment in the digital businesses is going to be often driven by new forms of financing, such as venture capital, fintech, and crowdfunding. These financing mechanisms require more agile and flexible business environments. ITC's digital entrepreneurship projects help in connecting startups with potential investors, and we will do more of this as we move towards stepping up with our support to developing countries to attract investment in the digital sectors. My third point speaks to the need to ensure that the provision of technical assistance remains a critical part of any response that we're going to provide for developing countries. Developing countries need resources and capacity to revitalize the investment flows, especially technical assistance for attracting investment into digital transformation and digital enterprises, so as to bridge the digital gap and prevent it from further widening. And we stand ready to work with others to make sure that we are doing our part in as far as supporting this particular area is concerned. My fourth and final point relates to other contributions that ITC is making as an organization in addressing the investment-related needs. We have been operating ground-level projects in Africa, developing business and investment partnerships, connecting local suppliers with foreign investors, as well as helping with strengthening capacity of investment promotion agencies, as we have done in incentivizing value addition of domestic SMEs. Many other projects, including on gender, as we heard from Cameroon, and indeed as we heard from other countries, have also been ones that we have pursued, as we have in the case of youth. We also have investment components that are aiming at facilitating the attraction of investment into developing countries and specific sectors. ITC has in particular a dedicated project on investment facilitation, building capacities and raising awareness about the measures that can be effective in improving investment climate and attracting sustainable investment. We look forward to our continued collaboration with UNCTAD and the other members of the UN family as we look forward to collaborating with others beyond the UN family. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tembe, Deputy Executive Director of the ITC, for your remarks. UNCTAD and the WTO value highly the work of the ITC in the area of connecting entrepreneurs to international trade and make it work for development in these countries. And with that, it's now my great pleasure to invite Mr. Roberto Morales, His Excellency, Mr. Roberto Morales, the Minister of Economy of Guatemala, to take the floor. Excellency.
Señores ministros,
Distinguished ministers, moderator, your excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. To begin with, I would like to express my gratitude to UNCTAD for giving me the opportunity to participate in and contribute to a dialogue on such an important issue. It's a pleasure for me to be able to participate at this ministerial roundtable and share some of the experience Guatemala has had and how Guatemala sees what we have to do to recover from the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic was, of course, unexpected. It wasn't planned for, and it's meant that all of us have had to readjust and overhaul our original plans. Therefore, our Economics Ministry carried out a multifaceted analysis to determine what the likely economic impact of COVID-19 on the country would be. Then we used those guidelines to draw up an economic recovery plan, which is what we're using to bring about economic recovery. It includes strategies and activities focused on three main areas: creating jobs, attracting more strategic investment, and promoting the consumption of local Guatemalan products, both nationally, regionally, and globally. In response to the questions which were asked of us for this session, I would like to focus what I'm going to say on the challenges that our micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises are now facing as a result of the pandemic. I'd also like to touch upon how our recovery plan has included measures to help them. First of all, it's obvious that the most urgent thing that we need to do is ensure that small and medium-sized enterprises can return safely to their normal activities and get their employees back on the job. That means having biosafe ways for our enterprises to operate in the country. Secondly, these small and medium-sized enterprises need financial support so that they can recover from the losses incurred during the pandemic and so that they can continue with our activities. That is why our second area of action in our plan is to make it easier for them to get access to financial instruments which will help them to grow. We are working together, therefore, with financial institutions within the country in order to develop such products. We have made available 275 million quetzales through our national micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise development plan. We also have 400 million quetzales available in another fund, and this is to provide soft loans for these enterprises. The goals of these programs is to ensure the provision of credit to them, to help them promote and attract investment, and last but not least, to ensure the survival of micro, small, and medium enterprises over the longer term. The Ministry of Economy also provides entrepreneurship development support on, for example, the selection of products. We provide technical advice and assistance so that they can improve the quality of the products they offer. Marketing is very important as well. These enterprises need more and better access to more markets, whether those are national and international, and we help them with that. We also provide training on entrepreneurship, because what we really need is a good entrepreneurship culture in the country. We're not going to have that unless people know what they're doing and can create and manage enterprises which will be sustainable over the longer term. Last but not least, the enterprises need to be more competitive and inserted appropriately into national, regional, and global value chains. Another innovative policy we're applying is helping enterprises to become more digital so that they can continue with their activities in what we've all been describing as the new normal. In conclusion, let me underscore one of the cross-cutting aspects of our COVID-19 recovery plan, and that is the one dealing with sustainability. For this, we take inspiration from the UN SDGs, and we are trying to ensure that all the other goals we've set to help these enterprises also ensure sustainability, that they're environmentally friendly, and that will help the development of Guatemala and Guatemalans over the longer term. The role of all enterprises, including micro, small, and medium enterprises, is essential in helping the country to achieve the SDGs, and that is why the Guatemalan government, together with private business, is undertaking a project with UNCTAD, the final aim of which will be to strengthen the government's ability to help and monitor the development of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in such a way that they will help us to achieve the SDGs. We also try to provide information about the SDGs to these enterprises so that they know what to do and how to do it in order to help us all achieve the SDGs. Countries like Guatemala appreciate any support given to them to promote sustainable business development, increase and strengthen micro and small and medium-sized enterprises, and help us all to improve what we're doing globally to.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Morales, Minister of Economy of Guatemala. And it's now my pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Smes, Minister of Industrial Development of Mauritius. You have the floor, sir.
Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to join you today for the 7th World Investment Forum. Allow me first and foremost to congratulate Mrs. Rebecca Greenspan, the new Secretary General of UNCTAD. Excellency, we assure you of our continued support for a successful mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, for this ministerial round, we are coming together to share our views on an important topic: entrepreneurship and sustainable recovery post-COVID-19. Excellencies, the pandemic has taken a heavy toll on the global economy, and here in Mauritius, we have not been spared either. GDP in Mauritius has contracted by 14.9% in 2020. With the closure of borders, our travel and tourism industry, which contributed to 8.1% of GDP in 2019, was the most severely hit sector. As for MSMEs, despite their relative resilience, they had to face the tough consequences created by the pandemic in terms of supply chain disruptions, decrease in sales, increasing freight and raw material cost, and most prominently, depleting cash flows. The government of the Republic of Mauritius has been prompt and effective in taking steps to mitigate the negative impacts of the pandemic. SMEs have benefited from support measures such as interest and guarantee-free loans, extension of moratoriums, and more importantly, the government wage assistance scheme, whereby government met the payment of salaries. The support package provided by the Mauritian government amounted to more than 32% of GDP, making it the fourth largest package in the world in terms of its share of GDP. Ladies and gentlemen, the dark clouds are dissipating and we are seeing some rays of light. The vaccination rollout has been a game changer. In Mauritius, some 64% of the population has been fully vaccinated, while almost 70% has received their first jab. In 2019, MSMEs contributed to around 35% of gross value addition, half of new employment created, and around 12% of domestic exports. Government will continue to support them in their internal capability development, acquisition of new technologies and innovation, improving their market access and competitiveness, and encouraging them to favor inclusiveness, interlinkages, and networking. Our policy for the MSME sector is crafted around our 10-year master plan for the SME sector, which we started implementing in 2017. The document was developed by Empretec Mauritius, a non-governmental social enterprise supported by UNOPS and UNCTAD. However, with the pandemic, new realities are emerging, and at the same time, new opportunities are being created. Government is laying emphasis on the promotion, sustainability, and resilience of sectors such as IT, business process outsourcing, blue economy, renewable energy, agro-processing, and biotechnology, and pharmaceutical industry. We are also reinforcing our food security and import substitution strategy for basic food products. The necessary policies will be developed for MSMEs to exploit these new opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has compelled MSMEs to rethink the traditional way of doing business. Government will assist MSMEs in their efforts to modernize their operations, to access renowned market information databases, to develop e-commerce and digital solutions, and to develop a roadmap to adopting Industry 4.0 that will embed fintech and blockchain technologies for MSMEs engaged in trading services. We are confident that our SMEs will meet the challenge of economic recovery and social resilience that we have set. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Bola, Minister of Industrial Development of Mauritius, for your remarks. And it is now my pleasure to give the floor to our next speaker, His Excellency, Mr. Carlos Albert Fortes Mesquita, Minister of Industry and Commerce of Mozambique. You have the floor, sir.
Her Excellency, Madam Rebecca Greenspan, UNCTAD Secretary General, honorable ministers and ambassadors, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, In behalf of the government of the Republic of Mozambique and on my name, I would like to thank the invitation and opportunity given to me, one of the speakers of this important forum. One of the business segments that most suffered and continues to suffer the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the entire global economic recession are the micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, which in Mozambique, like all the less developed countries, represent around 97.8% of the total of the business community. The strategic and structural dimension of MSMEs in countries' economies, despite being much more exposed to the vulnerability of their competitive efficiency, resides in the fact that they are one of the sustainable and inclusive sources of employment generation, wealth production, diversification of productive and fiscal base. The comparative experience of large economies, and especially emerging ones, demonstrates that MSMEs as a competitive backbone need medium and long-term policy instruments and effective programs to foster, leverage, and develop their capacity for their stability and sustainability. Mozambique's recent experience is based on the MSMEs Development Strategy 2007-2022, which includes guiding pillars at the level of 1. Improvement of the business environment, 2. Increased capacity of MSMEs, 3. Improving access to financial services, 4. Improved access to markets, and 5. The strengthening of monitoring and coordination mechanisms. This guiding instrument, especially at this time when we are consolidating the lessons learned, revealed to us, namely, 1, a trend towards a substantial increase in the number of MSMEs, going from 28,474 MSMEs to the current 49,734 MSMEs, percentage increase of 74.7%, and 2, a trend towards an increase in the contribution of MSMEs, both in the volume basis business, an increase above 100%, and in the level of employment generated, translating into the creation of new dynamics in local economic development. Today, the COVID-19 pandemic has imposed a new guiding and normative framework to support the sustainable and competitive structural development of MSMEs, which in the medium and long term must look at and adjust to the current dynamics of the economy to enable the recovery, leverage, acceleration, re-engineering, and competitive modernization of this business segment. It is based on this foundation that our government is proceeding with the revision of the General Statute of MSMEs, a document based on an integrated approach with a new paradigm and not limited to political and economic cycles, defines and prioritizes the development model operational based on incentives, solutions, and support infrastructure adjusted to this business segment as a factor in creating income and middle classes at local, rural, and national scale through a predictable and sustainable ecosystem. Mozambique believes that robust and integrated policy instruments and operational measures that provide effective and adequate support to the reality of MSMEs is the future path that must be followed, and today more than ever, taking advantage of the facilities that the digital dividend can bring and provide for greater innovation in line with the unavoidable expression of the demographic and social dividend dominated by young people and women.
Thank you very much. I wish to thank His Excellency, Mr. Mesquita, Minister of Industry and Commerce of Mozambique, for his statement. And it's now my great pleasure to invite the Minister of Trade and Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, His Excellency, Mr. Sidi Keita of the Republic of the Gambia, to take the floor. You have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Secretary General of UNTAD, Mrs. Rebecca Greenspan, Executive Director of ITC, Pamela Cook-Hamilton, my colleague Minister of Trade Ministers for the Republic of Chile, United Arab Emirates, Mauritius, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Colombia, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to present our contribution to the World Investment Forum on the theme Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Recovery Post-COVID for the Republic of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, in the year 2016, the Ministry of Trade, Regional Integration and Employment, in collaboration with the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, UNTAD, developed the National Entrepreneurship Policy for the first time in the history of the Gambia. It has been hailed as a groundbreaking policy as it is SDG aligned, and also serve as a policy tool used by the government of the Gambia to enhance the growth of the MSME ecosystem in the country in the pre-pandemic era. With the coming into office of the new dispensation, a National Development Plan 2018 to 2021 with 8 strategic priority areas and 7 cross-cutting critical enablers anchored on the principle of governance and accountability, social cohesion, national reconciliation, for the well-being of all in the Gambia. One of the strategic priorities of the NDP is to make the private sector the engine of growth, transformation, and job creation. The Gambian economy is characterized by the MSME sector, engaged across all identified priority sectors, which mostly operate informally, and the MSME sector constitutes 60% of the active labor force and contributes 20% of the GDP. The sector plays multiple roles in the economy as the labor sponge, skills building through apprenticeship, introducing new series and products to the labor market, among others. The government of the Gambia, having realized the importance of the MSME sector, finalized the MSME policy and strategy in 2018, which provides comprehensive, targeted, coherent framework to promote the sector, characterized by innovative and competitive businesses, and to be supported by a very conducive institutional and regulatory business environment. In spite of the initiatives above undertaken to promote SMEs and enhance their potential benefit, there still remains both internal and external challenges for their growth. Most MSMEs still depend on internally generated funds and borrowing from the informal sector. Credit to the private sector represents 14.7% of the GDP, which is well below the regional average of 58.7%. Interest rates charged by financial services providers hovers around 10 to 18% per annum and require hard collateral. This makes it particularly challenging for startups and MSMEs in need of longer-term financing and risk capital to finance their ventures. To support the SMEs, support to the MSME sector is also much wider than the portfolio of the Ministry of Trade. Since it cuts across all sectors, it involves a commitment from all ministries in the design and implementation of the policy. This relates to taxation, tourism, energy, education, gender, local government, investment, exports, banking, financing, technology, statistics, youth, culture, and the list goes on.
I wish to thank the Excellency, Your Excellency, Mr. Keita from the Gambia for his statement.
May I now invite Indonesia, the Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs in the Ministry of National Development Planning. She's speaking on behalf of Minister Mononarva. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It is my honor to represent my minister in this today's meeting of the 7th World Investment Forum. And now I would like to share an insight on micro, small, medium enterprises and entrepreneurship development in Indonesia, including the impact of COVID-19 on MSMEs in Indonesia. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a negative impact to the global and Indonesian economy. Almost all sectors were affected, and some sectors were highly impacted, such as accommodation, food and beverage, and processing industries. These sectors were dominated by MSMEs, and we believe that this kind of crisis is different from the past crisis in 1998, where MSMEs in 1998 have become the cushions of the Indonesian economy, which minimized the impact of financial crisis to the economy. In COVID-19 crisis, MSMEs were the most impacted sector due to mobility restrictions, social distancing policy, and pressures from the demand side of the economy. And this situation has created some challenges to MSMEs in Indonesia, such as 81% of our MSMEs face difficulties in distributing products. 75% MSMEs experience increase in raw material prices, and 75% MSMEs got decrease in revenue, and 88% MSMEs got pressures in sales. We would like to inform you that Indonesia has MSMEs policy directions and strategies in our national medium-term development plan, the period 2020 to 2024, focusing on business recovery of MSMEs and transformation of MSMEs. These strategies cover the first, increasing business partnerships between small businesses and larger enterprises. We can share the slide if it's needed. This is actually what we have in our medium-term development planning document, that the strategies that we have within this period 2020 to 2024 is increasing business partnerships between small businesses and larger enterprises, improving access to financial products, increasing the capacity, outreach, and innovation of cooperatives, supporting the creation of business opportunities and startups, as well as increasing the value added of social enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of MSMEs is one of our main priorities during the economic recovery phase. Acceleration of MSMEs development is divided into three aspects, which are institutional strengthening, program implementation, and regulatory supports. And the programs will include, among others, implementation of strategic partnerships, improving business and mentoring services, improving data collection, and developing financing innovations for MSMEs. In the job creation law that we just stipulated recently, in the following of COVID-19 pandemic, this is actually a kind of our new law to create a conducive environment for businesses in Indonesia. The government provides ease of doing business for MSMEs and cooperatives, which provides a more conducive business environment for MSMEs. And this includes single permit for MSMEs, integrated management of MSMEs programs, prioritizing MSMEs products in public procurement, ease of financing and fiscal incentives, as well as incentives and facilities for medium and large businesses to partner with micro and small enterprises. And furthermore, in our Presidential Decree number 10/2021 concerning investment of business sectors, Indonesia provides priority list of 245 business fields for tax holiday, tax allowance and investment allowance, and 163 business fields allocated or needed a partnership with MSMEs. And the last one that I would like to share with you is that Indonesia is really committed to accelerate the digital transformation in our development to ensure a more inclusive economic growth and reduce inequality among regions in Indonesia. We believe that digital economy will increase the nation's competitiveness and will be a new engine of Indonesia's economic growth. Digital transformation in Indonesia will be implemented through improving the quality of information and communication technology infrastructure. Second, expanding digital utilization in all development sectors, including trade and industry, as well as strengthening the enablers factors such as digital skills, digital literacy, and digital resiliency. And the digital transformation will further help MSMEs to improve market access, minimizing asymmetric information, as well as increase productivity. Therefore, the government will continue making numerous efforts to develop MSMEs in Indonesia and to create more productive and resilient MSMEs. Achieving a successful development of MSMEs requires good collaboration between all stakeholders. And I believe with our collective efforts and partnerships, we can help to strengthen MSMEs development and entrepreneurship in Indonesia, and thus it will promote a sustainable and inclusive economic recovery in Indonesia. Thank you very much, and I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Minister, Minister of National Development Planning of Indonesia. Thank you for sharing your country's best practices, and that is really exemplary. We also wish to express UNCTAD's commitment to support Indonesia in its forthcoming G20 presidency, and we look forward to working with your government to provide our technical support.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings to an end our statements from ministers, and it's now my pleasure to announce to you the playing of the video on the Empretec Women in Business Award, and also to take this opportunity to announce that the period of nominations for the next Empretec Women in Business Award is herewith open. Please play the video.
Since 2008, the UNCTAD's Empretec Women in Business Award has been staging examples of women who showed extraordinary strength to start their businesses.
Our business is called Pandama Retreat and Winery and Center for the Creative Arts.
We have 7 own shops and 3 pastry ateliers. We use only natural ingredients.
Mi empresa se llama Toca, es un negocio social en realidad. Nosotros trabajamos con muchas mujeres que son artesanas.
I started with this project to make gluten-free food.
Empezamos en el 2018 con nuestro huerto agroecológico, productos artesanales, el restaurante, animales de granja y el servicio que ofrecemos para los turistas.
Women around the world still face immense barriers when starting a business. From struggling for equal rights and freedom from societal norms, to lack of finance, technology, time and freedom of movement.
In Uganda, women never used to have anything of their own.
Beekeepers are mostly men. People just can't deal with the idea that you can discuss business.
There's so much to do and there's only you.
All the things that I know now managing and running a business are the things which I didn't know back then. So it was more of making mistakes, trials and errors every single day.
A gente tem passado por vários preconceitos aqui na empresa, não só eu, mas como toda a minha equipe, a maioria mulheres, mas a gente tem o discernimento de respeitar as pessoas e mostrar para essas pessoas que a gente pode fazer um trabalho legal, entregando compromisso, ética e transparência. Eu sei que eu sou uma pessoa inovadora, isso está dentro de mim.
UNCTAD's Emprotech program enables them to overcome a fear of criticism and failure, turn their dreams into business opportunities. Emprotech has motivated and boosted the self-confidence of thousands of women.
Emprotech experience completely changed my life. Wow, that was mind-blowing.
Emprotech teach you how to take your idea, how to make it shine.
E fui crescendo sempre com esta espinha dorsal de empreendedorismo. Quando eu entrei para o Emprotech, eu consegui consolidar.
The Emprotech workshop has given me a drive to improve my business.
Emprotech training has enabled me to start a business which has impacted thousands of people in Tanzania.
I took the Emprotech atelier in 2016 and the magic happened.
I was trained, skilled on how to be a successful entrepreneur.
Their stories of success and resilience are celebrated during the Emprotech Women in Business Award ceremonies, organised by UNCTAD every 2 years. As a satellite event to the World Investment Forum in December 2020, the 7th edition of the Emprotech Women in Business Awards took place as a virtual event. A tech entrepreneur from Jordan, Afan Kamel Ali, won the award. Emprotech is now looking for other exceptional women who have emerged as resilient, successful entrepreneurs and visionary business leaders in their countries.
You just need to roll up your sleeves, go out there and seek out the opportunities.
Don't be afraid to take that first step.
Let us believe in ourselves.
What came in my mind is that if I become a teacher, I can change the education system.
I love my life, so thank you, Emprotech.
The call for applications for the 8th edition of the Emprotech Women in Business Award is now open.